First thing first, a selfie with the president of the Seychelles. I'm just kidding. Would you recognize this handsome guy in shorts and swimsuit?
Well, first of all, I can recognize the Seychelles.
That's
And then-
myself, long time ago.
And then the very handsome guy.
Thank you very much. Handsome but bald. Thank you, Mr. President, for actually maybe giving me one of the best wedding anniversaries we've ever had. My wife keeps dwelling on how beautiful your country is.
Well, when are you? Have you already booked the next flight?
We're going to be back. We're going to be back very soon.
Okay.
But with children, with 4 children. That's the thing.
Well, you can come with the whole family, with the children, and
Thank you.
the extended family as well.
Thank you.
I think there will be space on this small island, however small we are.
It's not small. You have big hearts. Let me tell you something about the Seychelles. If you take a vote, all UAE nationals love the Seychelles, starting from the very top leaders
Yes.
all the way down. And I believe that even everyone who lives in this country either made it to the Seychelles or making a plan to visit your beautiful country.
Well, you're so right. Right from the highest level of government to the ordinary citizen, they all come to the Seychelles. And of course,
Thank you.
we love it whenever you come to the Seychelles and we say, it is your second home.
Thank you.
So anytime,
Thank you,
come
Mr.
to
President.
your second home.
Thank you, Mr. President. As we watch these beautiful pictures showing the beauty of your country, truly heaven on earth, and I believe that there are so many beautiful countries, we just need to make an effort to visit one another more often to realize the beauty surrounding us and appreciate what we've been gifted with. You believed in sustainable development goals long time before they were called even the Millennium Development Goals or the Sustainable Development Goals. Throughout your maybe childhood, the way you were raised by your great parents, a mother being a teacher, a father being a metal worker, principles, values, manners, respect.
You've been spying on me.
I've been doing my homework. I have bosses who are super tough on us, the best ministers we have. So the principles cascaded down into the society, but you truly believed in sustainable development goals without framing it as in sustainable development goals long time ago. Why did this happen? Why did you have that urge to do development and sustainability from the very childhood and then youthfulness?
Thank you very much for your kind words of introduction. And in fact, as you were reminding me of my mother as a school teacher and my father as a metal worker, it brought back the memories of growing up and how from a very young age, these what we call SDGs today were very much part of my life. And I'm sure very much part of everybody's life, how our parents taught us not to waste food, to always think of the neighbor who didn't have enough to eat, how education was important, how we had to take care of our health, and how we had to respect not only the friend, the neighbor, but also everybody. And in the small village, an elderly person, a woman, was called an auntie.
That's true.
You couldn't refer to the person by the first name. She was an aunt.
Yeah.
The gentleman was uncle.
Yeah.
So this is how it all. I mean, that's how I grew up, and so as I continued in life, I found that these were very much part of being a human being.
Yeah.
And my vocation also helped me along those lines. Religion played a very important role, and therefore taking care of others, loving the neighbor as much as you love yourself was very important. But in fact, the SDGs, okay, the consultants, the experts label them SDGs. It's a bit like, okay, as an island boy, we love looking at the stars.
Yeah.
We've always admired the belt of Orion, but we didn't know that it was the belt of Orion.
Yeah.
And then somebody came along and said, this is the belt of Orion. And they said, oh, okay. And then they introduced us to Taurus, the bull. I said, okay. And in the same with the SDGs, the fight against hunger, the first one,
Yeah.
education, protecting the oceans, and everything else were brought together, and we realized that, oh, so this is what I've always believed in.
Yeah.
So it's part of me.
Yeah.
And as a leader, I'm always propagating
Yeah.
how important the SDGs are
Yeah.
for us to achieve. And this is my life's vocation.
Yeah, it's true. To build on that and what you've done as a person and also as a leader in the Seychelles is something that aspires so many people. We have our ministers around and they travel the world and they travel to so many remote islands. What advice would you give to islands when it comes to, you know, embedding sustainable blue economy into the way you do business in everyday's life?
Well, first of all, when we look from SDG 13, looking at climate change, SDG 14, taking care of the seas, and then 15, taking care of what's on land, I think it's important for us small islands always to talk about the vulnerability that we face. And for example, it's always amazing when I think of the Seychelles, 469,000 square kilometers. Well, not 1,000, 469 square kilometers of land,
Yeah.
and 1.4 million square
It's
kilometers of
99%.
ocean.
Yep. Yep.
99.9% of the Seychelles is ocean.
Yep.
So obviously, this makes us look at ourselves differently. And when we look at development, we don't have that much land for us to go into industrialization. We don't have the population for that.
Yeah.
Population of 95,000 people. When we look at what the climate is doing to us, we've got granitic islands and coral islands, and the coral islands, similar to what is happening to the Maldives, are slowly being eroded away. So this is where, for us as small island developing states, we tend to focus on the service industry, and we also focus on technology, how to be able to make use of the maximum, and thus we look at what the world is doing in order for us to move forward. When we look at clean energy, again, we depend so much on fossil energy, and even renewable energy seems to be so far away from us. But, however, we are moving in that direction. So development, as we look at our own development, we're also looking at the sustainability of our planet. And this is something else which is very much part of us as a small island developing state, or as an oceanic state, because we are giving back to, we are protecting the world. As far as, take for example, the the mangrove forests, we are protecting them at 100%. Seagrass meadows at 100%. And interestingly enough, together with the island of Mauritius, we are now managing the Saya de Mala. And what is interesting with the Saya de Mala is the fact that it's got a seagrass meadow which is bigger than Switzerland. So, and of course we know that seagrass meadows remove so much carbon dioxide, more carbon dioxide than trees. So this is part of our contribution to what the world is doing. And maybe as a small island developing state, our emissions are next to zero, but we are in the process helping the world. And this is why SDG 17 is so important for us. And I loved it when the First Lady of Colombia mentioned that SDG 17, the whole world coming together, is so important for us. And being right there in the middle of the Indian Ocean, 1,000 miles from anywhere, the cooperation with other partners. And of course, the UAE
Thank you.
is such an important partner.
Thank you, Mr. President. You said a couple of things, and I think the global cooperation's goal number 17, you referred to it, the First Lady referred to it, and I think even UNICEF referred to it, Mr. Russells. The World Government Summit is all about global collaborations and striking partnerships that are good for humanity. So we look forward to actually doing more of these things. It's amazing that you mentioned the mangrove.
Yes.
Yesterday we announced the strategy and the roadmap for the Emirate of Al-Qawain, one of the emirates of the UAE, and they actually touched base on that particular factor, the sustainable blue economy, and they gave the example of the mangrove. So I'm very glad that we're actually thinking alike and we're inspired by what you've been doing. Maybe I would like to ask you something. You actually mentioned it. Youth. How do you see the role of youth in the future? How do you see them behaving? How do you see them carrying forward the flag of being responsible citizens, but also responsible contributors to the society, to the economy, and to the different sectors within the Seychelles?
Well, I believe that in the same way that our families passed on to us important values, we should be passing on these values to our young people. Unfortunately, the culture of today makes the youth sometimes not willing to listen to their elders. But we've got to remind them that they are not islands on themselves, but that they form part of this world community, and that whatever they do will have an effect on the world. And however small the Seychelles is, what we try to pass on to our young people is the values that we have in common. And in many ways, I see, and it's important for our young people to understand, that they form part of this foundation. Okay, we have all placed a little stone, a little pebble, or whatever contribution into that foundation, but they will form the foundation for the next 1,000 years, for the future. And therefore, it is so important to give them the right values, to pass on the right values, to help them to understand that life is not just about fun, but it's about gaining wisdom, and that we want to leave a better world for them. We want to give them a better today, so that they can also give future generations a better today when their time comes.
That's great. Maybe the last question I have, I would love to continue the discussion, and maybe I'll have one question from the audience, if you allow me. What keeps you awake at night?
I'm a good sleeper. I must say, I mean, this is
You're
one
a
of
very blessed leader.
I was going to say this is one of the blessings that we all enjoy when we can actually sleep and not watch the ceiling and have different thoughts. But I must say, I wake up around 3:30, 4 a.m. And that's when I realize I'm the president of the Seychelles. And the whole country sort of unfurls before me, and I realize the responsibilities. And I also realize how blessed I am to be living in the Seychelles, the most beautiful, I would say, the most beautiful country in the world, the paradise as you've described. But how I've been given the responsibility to keep it paradise.
And to look after them.
And therefore to ensure that there is harmony amongst our people. And this is why, again, when we talk about gender equality, we are blessed to have a country where we've pushed the notion of gender equality, and women and men are respected in the same way. How we get people to be hardworking, and how we get our young people, our babies, our children, to grow in the healthiest of environments. So this is very close to my heart, and I get worried when, for example, I receive reports of children who have been abused, women who are going through, well, domestic violence, and these things worry me. And when our young people are being affected by drugs, I get very worried. And so maybe from 4 a.m., this is what keeps me awake, thinking of how to make our country the best country in the world.
It's beautifully said, beautifully said. Mr. President, you never carried a gun in your history. I read your bio, but you always fought for a better future for the people of the Seychelles. And that's something actually we have so much resemblance even here. And when I reflect on our leadership, there is so much of parenthood. There is the father figure, the mother figure. The leadership figure is not a leader. It's not a party-driven leadership that I'm going to be there for 4 years or 3 years or 6 years and then out. It's about sustainable prosperity for the nation. So I really admire the way you look you look at your nation. Beautifully said. Very inspiring. One question from the audience, if you may allow me your question.
Oh yes, go ahead.
تفضل عمر. Mike, just 1 second. And by the way, just info for everyone, I did not see Umar and I did not talk to him about this session. He never knew I am hosting a session.
Your Excellency, you mentioned that things that you've learned once you were young and the culture that was shaped how Seychelles today and the others. How do you envision the future of Seychelles, given the the new challenges that are arising and the new generations and their difference in thinking than maybe, I wouldn't say me, but maybe your generations? How do you envision them with the future of Seychelles? Do you envision them creating the new SDGs, and how do you see that?
Interesting, because trying to see what the future will give, and especially in those uncertain times that we are living in, it's very difficult for anybody now to start planning for 7 years or for 10 years because things are so volatile. And so our young people must, however, be given all the encouragement, and they must be taught that they are mortal beings. And I believe also that if we all recognize that we are mortal beings and that we're not going to be around forever, then at least we can start thinking of doing good. What are we going to leave behind after we're gone? How will people think of us? Will they think of us as people who are just a waste of time on this planet? Or will they say, oh, I learned something good, or at least the leaders not only led, but they also accompanied the people. And the values that they shared can be fostered further, can be nurtured, and that those SDGs that are here today are basically what the world needs. And I do pray that in 20 years' time, in 50 years' time, generations to come will look back at 2015 and say, the world did something that was good. They recognized values that are eternal compared to our mortal nature.
Well done. Thank you very much, Mr. President. It's an honor to be sitting next to you and talking to you,
in fact,
up close and personal.
Well, it was an honor for me, especially following from 3 great ladies. I mean, I was wondering how I, as a man, would do. And so SDG 13, no, it's not 13, SDG on SDG 5 on gender equality has proven itself this morning.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.